Hi everyone, happy Saturday. So this is a special request. Trudy, from my comments, thank you Trudy, has asked that I color out of the Alice in Wonderland Grayscale coloring book that I just got a couple weeks ago. So that is what we're doing. This is going to be an entirely alcohol marker image with one exception at the end. I will be using Cali Arts and Arteza Everblends for this. So Trudy had noted in the comments that she sometimes feels a little intimidated by Grayscale, and I only note that because, hey, you know what? I still do too. I still do too. I don't color in Grayscale as much as I love it. I don't color in it as often as you'd think I would, which I'm hoping to change that. But Grayscale is definitely it's a little bit different type of coloring page, and the beauty of Grayscale is that if you love having shading in your coloring, but maybe you're not comfortable shading yourself yet, or like me, sometimes you don't really want to put in the extra effort for it, but you still like how it looks at the end. Um, Grayscale is a great option for that. With sometimes you don't have to put in minimal effort, but with sometimes minimal effort on my part, I can put together a pretty darn fantastic page, and this turns out to be a great example of that. This might be the fastest picture I've colored in a long time, guys. We all know how slow I am coloring, and especially because I get stressed about color choices. I am just slow and unsure a lot of times, especially when I first start coloring an image. I end up using the smaller tip of a marker because I don't want it to bleed, and this and that. And I don't know, this was one of those magical pictures. Let's all say hello to Sidonia, by the way. She decided to put in a cameo for this. She is doing great, by the way. Ever since that last little episode she had a couple weeks ago where she wouldn't eat, we did that round of Pro Fender for everybody last week, or the week before. I can't even keep up anymore. I think it was the week before. And she seems, ever since that last bout of it, she seems to be doing well. So my guess is at the end of the day, there probably was an underlying parasite type thing making its rounds, which I guess after 18 and a half years of owning cats, having that happen one time is a pretty good ratio. So, so I guess I can count myself pretty darn lucky on that one. Anyway, so of course I will get back to my crazy life in general later, but I did want this. I'm not sure. I guess I could call this, like, this is not a tutorial. This is like a tips, things I've learned doing Grayscale, maybe. Just an intro to Grayscale from my perspective, I guess. So that's kind of how I wanted to at least start the majority of this video. Things are going well for me. Nothing crazy is going on right now. So for those of you that are concerned, things are well. And if we have time at the end, I will get into those. But for right now, I want to just mostly talk about Grayscale because, again, I know this is something I see a lot of, not just on my channel questions, but like in comments, but I see that in a lot of places. So, like I said, Grayscale can be a bit intimidating because, well, you don't want to mess it up, I guess, right? Like for me, when I first started coloring Grayscale pictures, I didn't want to use too dark a color and kill the Grayscale effect. And to me, that ruined the picture when I first started out. So, but if you were new to Grayscale, so there are a number of different Grayscale artists out there. A lot of us do cover the Jade Summer books. They are a very popular option, not just for people that are, in my opinion, that are just starting out on Grayscale, but for a lot of us that, again, um, like to be, how do I put this, efficient in our coloring. I don't want to call myself lazy. I mean, I'll call myself lazy, but I'm not going to call anybody else lazy. We just like to be more efficient in our coloring. Maybe we have, like myself, I have limited energy in what I can put into my hobbies some days and weeks and months. Um, and so some people have limited time, and there could be other reasons. Like some people don't want to mess around with shading with pencils, and like that's just so. A lot of us tend to go towards these. The Jade Summer Grayscale books, in my opinion, are some of the easiest grayscale books to use. You can get beautiful effects again with just a plain marker overlay, which is what I do here. I just do a layer of marker. I don't shade with pencil. I didn't even add glitter gel pens to this one. And guys, I'm telling you, this, like I said, this was a magical picture. I had the majority of the colors figured out when I started it. I only had one or two questions as I went along, and by the time I come back around to them, like any other picture, I figured out what I wanted to do. And somebody's outside playing with a toy, I think. Hopefully that's Annie. Um, but like everything I wanted to do went the way I expected it to, and it just all came together, and I love the finished picture. I'm telling you, I may cut out the picture and put it on the wall. That's how much I like it. And that's the thing. Don't ever feel like don't feel like just because you're, okay, I'm just putting, I'm straight coloring with marker on this image, and so it's not a good picture compared to what a lot of other people are coloring or how they're coloring. And don't ever think that. Like I said, I love this picture more than a lot of the pictures that I've spent hours and hours on. So don't ever feel like that's not the case. But as I said, Jade Summer to me is some of the easiest grayscale to start out with. Now, in looking over the grayscale, I found that one of the bonuses to using their books when you first start out, certain ones of their grayscale books, is that you get 2 copies of each image, which is the case in Alice in Wonderland. So if you really are intimidated by grayscale and it's going to freak you out to start a picture, and you just can't come to terms with, like, you're scared you're gonna ruin the picture, then grab a Jade Summer book that has 2 copies of each picture, so then you have your backup if you need it. I even like having those. It's not necessarily I think I'm gonna mess up a picture, but every now and then I get ideas to try on certain pages, and if they don't work out, then I've got the other copy. So that's not just for Grayscale, but that's for a lot of Jade Summer books. Here I am talking good about Sid, and now she's over here coughing, or quacking as I call it. But the thing is, not all the Jade Summer Grayscale books, not all Jade Summer books have the 2 copies of 25 images. So what I would suggest is, if you were looking to pick up a Grayscale book or any Jade Summer book, their Amazon descriptions can be a little inconsistent in telling you whether it's 25 or 50 images. It's either one or the other. 25 unique images or 50 unique images. You can go to their site, jadesummer.com, click on the book. If it doesn't tell you in the description, they do show thumbnails of all the images in the book, which is something I've always loved that Jade Summer does. So you can go down and actually count the images yourself. That is one thing I wish they would do, is definitely label whether it's 25 unique images or 50, because they're really inconsistent about that in descriptions. So check on their site, count the thumbnails if you have to, just to make sure you're getting what you think you're getting. So like Alice in Wonderland has 25 images, 2 copies of each. I think they're cute Fairies has, yeah, 2 copies of 25 images, that grayscale. The Kawaii grayscale, I believe, has 50. That one has 55 unique images, evidently. So I thought it was always either 25 or 50, but I'm wrong. Their Light and Dark Fantasy also has like 50 unique images. So, because they combined books. So, like I said, just be sure to keep that in mind if that is the type of book you want to start out with. There are other artists out there too. I was thinking there's actually 2 I'm going to cover in a Flip Through Friday next Friday. What I was thinking is actually doing kind of a featured grayscale flip through where maybe I do one book from each artist. So Jade Summer has mostly fantasy as their grayscale options for right now. But like if you like coloring people more, then Grazia Salvo, Flowers and Gems, is a popular choice for just coloring people in general. If you like coloring animals, Jane Madej has the Adorable Animals Grayscale book, which is a huge book to begin with. I think you get a great deal for the images you get, and they're beautiful. I've actually used just pencil in those books. I can use just pencil. I can use marker. It just it's gorgeous. So if you like coloring like dogs and cats and birds, her book's a good choice. If you do like people and you like more fantasy type people, or even just regular people, Christine Karen, Selena Fenich, and Elena Lazareva are good choices. I actually have the 2 books, little heads up, 2 of the books that I'm covering next Friday that are new acquisitions. I did get a Selena Fenich book and one of Elena Lazareva's compilation books. I don't have anything from them other than like digital samples, so these are the first books I own from either of them. And so we'll be covering those for sure next Friday regardless. And then Christine McAllister also does animals, people, probably more fantasy type images as well. So there's a lot of options out there. If you're not a fan of Jade Summer or the Jade Summer paper, which I believe Christine McAllister's is Amazon printed, but Jane Madej's isn't. I think Elena Lazareva and Selena Fenich are Amazon printed. Christine Karen may also be Amazon paper printed. But a lot of these artists also offer digital copies as well as Jade Summer. So through their Etsy store or what have you. So you do have other options if you absolutely just do not want to color in an Amazon printed book. So a lot of grayscale out there. There's actually also Ruth Sanderson. I have the grayscale coloring book version of her book Castle Full of Cats, which is adorable, by the way. I have the actual storybook, and it is gorgeous. But Ruth Sanderson's pictures are, you talk about being intimidated. I am intimidated by her pictures, and I have not touched that book yet. So that is another level for me that's going to require pencil and probably not marker. So there's a lot of options out there. Again, the Jade Summer ones right now are just my primary go-to for grayscale, just because, like I said, sometimes I just need something easy. And so here we are. Now, I am not a grayscale pro. This isn't like a tutorial or anything. I've only learned just some basic kind of tips as I went along, and most of them are obvious, and I've seen other, if you've colored any sort of grayscale, they probably seem kind of straightforward. So I'd say the first go-to is, if you don't want to cover up the grayscale, go with the lightest colors that you can. So As you notice in the background, I use like a brighter, lighter blue, and then I use that light pink. If you want bright light colors, are probably going to give you the most grayscale pop in these particular images in the Jade Summer books, because you're minimizing how much of the grayscale you're covering up. So of course it's really going to shine through on those colors. Now, if you want to use a darker color and and you don't really like the shade of the lighter version, one way you can try to find a compromise is maybe putting down the lighter shade once, letting it dry. If you want it to be deeper, then go back in with another layer. It still likely won't be dark enough to cover up the grayscale, but it'll give you that deeper color you're looking for. So that's one tip I guess I have. The second tip I have is, if you want to use a darker color, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You're not going to ruin the image if you cover up some of the grayscale. So you can see me implementing my second tip, quote, whatever you want to call it, my second observation right now. So when because I have like the old full, like what used to be the full set of Cali Arts was like, I think just 80 markers or 100 markers. I can't remember. Whichever one it was, that's what I have. I don't have like the really behemoth, gigantic set that they have out now. Though after using them in this picture, I really just don't understand why I don't use them more. That definitely needs to change. But one of the things, and I struggle with this with any marker set, is your variety of purples and oranges. And I'm not the only one. I've had other people comment on that as well that I've talked with. It really, in any set I have, the variety of purples and oranges is just like my kingdom for a light, rich looking purple, and my kingdom for a light orange, or like a light yellow orange color. I really have to dig for those. A lot of times I end up using my Prisma Spanish orange for like a yellow orange type color, because it seems so darn hard to find. And when I'm using, especially when I'm doing my Sun Life drawing books and they're asking for like a yellow orange, I seem to struggle with finding that color. And like I said, a purple that's not just completely super dark, or not the type of not the shade undertones that I want. So Cali Art didn't have what I was looking for. Arteza did, sort of. I wanted something a little richer looking than this. Now, the thing is, and this is why I show you guys a different picture now, or the finished picture in a different light now at the end of the videos, because what you're seeing on camera now, that purple is a lot richer looking. It looks more blue on here because of the lighting, but when you see the finished picture at the end, you'll see it's more of just like a rich, more actually purpley purple. I don't know how else to describe it, but this is a darker color though. I really just didn't want to use like a lilac or a lavender on them. The background was so light, I wanted him to kind of have some contrast. So I reached for a deeper purple. And in the past, it would have stressed me out because, as you can see, I would say this is more of a medium tone. This isn't a dark color, but it is darker in that your medium tone colors will cover up probably some of the grayscale. They may. In this case, as it dried, I noticed more of the grayscale did come through. So while it doesn't cover it up completely, and you still can get some grayscale effect, just keep that in mind with your medium colors. For some people, they use a darker color like this and they're like, oh gosh, I ruined it, you can't see the grayscale. And that was the way I was when I first started. And then it just got to the point of, yeah, I can use lighter colors, but dagnabbit, I like me some deep, vibrant color. And I'm not going I'm not going to cover, I mean, there's nothing wrong with coloring a page in like pastel tones or super light colors. I mean, there are pictures I find that probably would benefit from that. But over time, I've figured out that sometimes I'm just willing to sacrifice some of the grayscale. Now, this isn't as dark as, say, like the Playful Purple that is the big marking marker that I used on Wednesday for the Night Sky and World of Cats. This is not nearly as dark as that. The Playful Purple would probably cover up the majority of the grayscale, as would like a super dark gray or a black or like a deep wine red type of color. Your really deep tones like that are probably going to cover up most of the grayscale. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to use. There are some pages I would like to just black out the background and then do the rest of the picture that's in grayscale in lighter tones. So you don't have to be attached to just using lighter colors because you don't want to cover up the grayscale. You think that's just going to ruin the picture. Like, don't feel, while they do, I guess, the best in showcasing the grayscale, when you're doing a grayscale picture overall, don't feel like you are just tied to only using light colors. It is okay if you use deeper colors, and to me, I feel like that can add some nice effects to this. Like even here, I'm using an even deeper purple color on these little symbols, like the hearts and spades and diamonds and stuff and clubs and stuff, because I wanted those to pop a little more. Now, originally when I colored this and I was going over those little areas like that in that deep purple, I thought, well, I'll come back with a glitter gel pen. And your gel pens are probably going to cover grayscale as well. So some people don't like using gel pens in the grayscale pictures. At this point, I'm okay with it. I don't cover up all the grayscale. I just like using them for their effect in certain little areas. I didn't use it in this picture because I really, honestly, when I got done with it, I just loved the marker. And so I didn't really feel like it needed the gel pen, but I could have come back and added that and it would have been fine. So yeah, as with tip number 1, use lighter colors. Tip 2 is if you want to use darker colors, go for it. Your medium colors are not going to completely take away your grayscale. You may lose some of it, but again, the contrast I get with the deeper colors is worth the sacrifice of some of the grayscale to me. So that's kind of just one thing I've had to practice and get comfortable with myself over time. So, or bringing in gel pen that may cover up the grayscale as well. So that would, I guess, be kind of tip number 2 on that. Hang on, let me get a drink here. Now, a tip I have with any image, grayscale, regular line art, what have you, I guess one of the things, and again, these all seem like common sense things, but when I first started coloring grayscale or any image, I had to fight myself on some of these. You don't have to, like, the general rule of thumb, especially with pencils, is that you want to start at left top and work your way to right bottom across the picture. Mostly with pencil, you don't want to risk smearing your pencil. If you're using paint, obviously you don't want to risk getting paint or gel pen or what have you smeared across the picture and stuff. And I would say that is a good rule to go by, especially if you're using like colored pencils or some kind of wet medium or something. But actually, if you've been with me for a while, you know I never go top left to bottom right. I never do. There's just, anytime I start a picture, there's just one area I zero in on in that image, and that's where I want to start. And it could be anywhere on that picture. And that has come back to bite me, especially if I use a lot of heavy layers of pencil. I have to be extra careful not to smear them. I have had oops where I've smeared gel pens or a Posca pen or something doing that. So know that that kind of, this is a do as I say, not as I do thing. Know that that kind of logic can have risks. That kind of approach can have risks. Actually, in this picture, I didn't start at the top left, but I mean, I did do the background, the clouds first. So I tried to follow that a little bit in this picture where I went kind of top to bottom at the very least. But don't feel like you have to, if there is an area you're unsure of, don't feel like you have to go, like if you're going top to bottom, don't feel like you have to fill in every aspect of that picture going top to bottom and that you can't stop on a section and go back to it. Again, that sounds like common sense, but when you are, when you're really, into a picture and like you're really trying to put a lot of effort and skill into it and stuff, it's sometimes, I don't know, like it can eat at you to leave certain sections of it not colored and then come back to them later. Like you're like, okay, I color this part, then I go to this next part, then I go to this next part, and there is no skipping, right? Like in your brain, it's hard for you to come to terms with actually skipping over a section. But like in this image, when I was coloring it, I didn't do the background circles and stuff because I wasn't still sure. I was going to add some pencil there, and that's the one deviation from marker I do in this picture, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to do those circles yet. I had the colors, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I was definitely unsure of his little shirt, blouse, and bow thing when I got done coloring the cat. So I was like, okay, I'm going to color the rest of the picture. And I'm telling y'all, 9 times out of 10, as I go through the sections, I know what colors I want them to be. Usually the areas that I'm unsure about come into focus, meaning I color the rest of the picture and like all of a sudden I know what I want to do with that based on the other colors I'm using. If I'm trying to keep consistent colors throughout the picture, sometimes that issue, a lot of times that issue will resolve itself with minimal stress, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like, right, I left all that part alone and I just went down to the branch because I knew what I was coloring with the branch. And this is always nice too. If you are with any picture with marker, pencil, what have you, this branch, the way it was drawn, I don't have to just use one color for this branch. I use 2 different tones of brown. And these aren't necessarily light, super light versions of the browns. They're more probably medium tones, but they're rich, they're vibrant and bright in color, I guess. They're rich colors. So I still feel like the Greyscale does amazing with these colors, even though they're not necessarily like the lightest tones I could have picked. So that's where I was saying a lot of times you've just got to experiment with the markers that you have and love. Experiment with the colors you have. You might be surprised at how dark you can go with certain colors and still get the Greyscale effect to come through. So like I said, that's just one of those things. Sometimes it's trial and error. So, but I lost my train of thought. What I was saying. Oh yeah. So like in this case, I knew what I was coloring the bottom of the picture with. I already had all the markers set out, and so then by the time I got back to the top, I already knew which way I was going, and it leads to less stress. This, like I said, this was. I wish all my coloring pages were this simple, in that it just all clicked. I enjoyed the picture. All the colors I picked were spot on. I loved how the result I got. there was minimal stress, there was minimal fuss and muss with this. This was my kind of jam picture right here. So thank you to Trudy for suggesting this, because it all came together for this picture. And I guess if I could make myself relax more when I color, I could have more pictures like this. So I don't have to overthink all my pictures. And obviously, there are some pictures, even with me, that I want to use techniques in, and I want to try different things, and I want to make sure I use all the mediums that I have. And I sometimes just markers gets boring, and oh no, that is sacrilege. How can you say such a thing, Michelle? No, I love my markers. Please don't go away, markers. I do love you. I really do. I can't quit you. But sometimes just markers gets a little dull. And sometimes, I want to try some different stuff. But in this case, I guess because I've been doing so many other different types of pictures, this one, like I said, it just all came together. And I wish more of my pictures would. You'll also notice in this picture, and this is one of the reasons I think it went a little faster, you'll notice that I'm just using the chisel tip in my markers. I did not use the fine tip at all. And that, it must be surprising to a lot of y'all, because as I said, I tend to be a slow colorist, even with just straight coloring with markers. And I don't feel super confident in using like a chisel tip or a brush tip, just because, especially on like Amazon paper, it will bleed. But this time I used the chisel tip. I was super careful with it. And I will say that I like the Cali Art chisel tip a lot. Just because a marker says chisel tip doesn't mean that all chisel tips are built the same, by the way. For instance, your Prismacolor, it says like chisel tip, but it's more of like a broad tip. It is more circular rather than square, and it's like huge, and you have to be really careful with those. My inner 12-year-old is really fighting with myself right now as I'm saying this. I'm having "that's what she said" firing in my head 20 times right now. I'm just telling y'all. Hey, I'm just being honest. But the Prismacolors, I tend to use the fine tips on them just because I have more control. The brush tips are typically okay. I find the Copic brush tips give me some control just because they don't output as much of the marker. The Arteza chisel tips are okay. I've been using more of those lately. They are more of a square shape, but they do have a little bit of roundness to them. I will say I do like the Cali Art. So far, to me, the Cali Art chisel tips seem to be the best for me in terms of precision, because they are more of just a sharp chisel square tip. There's angles to it. There's no roundness to them. And I guess I would have to pull out all the markers to kind of show you what I mean. So I guess if anybody really is like, what do you mean by that? Then, we can do that. And I can show you all that. But hopefully you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. And I guess once I start really doing reviews of my markers, or redoing reviews of my markers, that should be one thing I probably mention. So, but these have a really angular, sharp chisel edge to them in the chisel tip. And to me, that added a lot of precision that I seem to lack with the other ones, and caused a lot less bleeding. So, huge point for the Cali Arts right there. I gotta use them more often. I know it's just, I don't know why I don't reach for them more. I really don't. They're in my marker set on my desk, and it just, I don't know. But I think after this, I say I'm going to use them more, and then y'all, like 3 months from now, like, okay, we've never seen you use them after that. What happened? But anyway, So, so what have we covered? This is, I was like, blah, 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 what, womp womp. Y'all, it is like only 11:30 in the day, and I am not, oh my gosh, Leroy, here he is again. So I have, as an aside, quick aside to the grayscale and overall chat, coloring related chat I've been doing. Annie has a special type of food, and while she's been eating this week, it has been a bit of a struggle with her some here and there. She's been really finicky about food. And the vet last week had given me this Hills, I think it's called AD food, and they had said give her a little bit of this. If you have to syringe feed her with it, do so. This should be a food that she wants to eat. It's really high in like protein and fat and stuff. And I'm like, y'all don't know Annie. Annie don't eat. She eats like one to two foods, different types of food, on a good day. And I'm like, she's not going to eat any prescription food. I'm telling you, she's not going to do it. So I didn't give her the food to start with because she seemed to go back to her tried and true fish and shrimp fancy feast, which seems to be consistently the only food she'll eat. And then she started kind of getting, I don't know, finicky with it, bored with it. I don't know what happens in the middle of the week. So, like any other food, I cracked open one of the AD cans and put a little in a bowl, and I thought, I'll give her this, she'll turn her nose up at it, and we'll just move on. And girl made a liar out of me and stuffed her face. So I don't know what is in, I don't know if they just mix in catnip with this food. I don't know if it's like the equivalent of kitty crack. I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, if I had put money on whether or not she's going to eat that food, I would have lost money on this because I just apparently didn't realize how potent this food was. And my experience with prescription diets has been that they usually, overall, do not like them, which is not an unusual experience I think anybody with pets has. With exceptions, Leroy seems to like prescription foods for some reason, but won't eat like the cat chow, I guess, equivalent of kitty junk food. So go figure. Anyway, she stuffed her face with it. And I was like, okay. So I put a little bit in a bowl and I'm keeping it near my desk high up so that when she does come over here and wants to wind around my legs, I can put down the bowl of food and I can see her eating it. And she's been eating very well the last few days. Her showing interest in food's great, but I always worry too that she's just suddenly going to decide she doesn't like it for a while again, like she does with everything else. So, as with this, I do wonder if she's just going to suddenly stop not liking it. But she's been eating it and some other foods fairly well the last few days. Anyway, I have a bowl of it up here. And I have it on top of my bookcase. And so far, none of the other cats have noticed it's there. It's up out of their reach. This morning, I have had Leroy attached to my side. That little sucker is like, I've never thought he's an intelligent cat. Like, I mean, he's sweet and he's sweet to a point. He's kind of a jerk too. Okay, I don't know if he was laughing at that comment or if something else happened. But anyway, my husband definitely disagrees that he's sweet. But he is, he means well, but he's a few cans short of a full pack of cat food in his brain. It's not all there. And he's just not the brightest bulb in the bunch. And that's okay. But I'm telling you, apparently he is food motivated because when food was involved this morning, he turned into the cat equivalent of Stephen Hawking. Like, I could see math calculations going on in his head, trying to figure out how he could get to the bowl of food that I have hidden away, and how he knew I had that food bowl. Is still, he was like, in the living room, and all of a sudden he's up on my desk, and I'm like, that's weird. You're not normally one to get up on my desk, unless you have a good reason. And then I realized, as his nose was in the air, he scented that food. And again, he likes the prescription food, and that sucker has been crawling all over me, and I've had to put it up even higher. And then I saw him calculating how to get it off the top of the bookcase, so I finally had to like boot him out of the room. That's why I was this morning was like, just Leroy's been not sweet this morning. He wants the food, and he is mad because he's not getting it. And in case you guys are thinking that I'm just like depriving the poor little waif, that poor little waif is like probably almost 17 pounds by now. He is the third biggest cat I have, probably behind Maggie, and definitely Bagheera is the winner of that particular particular category. He is a big cat. He does not need any more food. Trust me, he gets plenty. He gets more than he needs. He does not need any more food. So, anyway, let's get back to the picture. So, like right here, I am using a darker red, and I used... It was noted as an R in the swatch sheet. I used swatch sheets for this, guys. I actually used my swatches. I still scribbled a little, but I did use my swatches. I did use a darker red and then like a dark gray, though it had an R in front of it. I can't remember the name, but it looks kind of purpley gray. So I used those for the hearts and the diamonds. And again, they probably cover up some of the grayscale, though the red actually did a whole lot better than I thought it would. So I'll have to remember that in the future. I did try to pick the lightest red I could without going into pink. Like, this is where, again, you got to make a decision. I didn't want a pink, but finding a light red can be a bit of a challenge. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go with the lightest red I can, but if it covers up some of the grayscale, then that's fine. But I was still really pleased, actually, with how the grayscale did with it. So the darker gray, no big surprise. It covered up most of the grayscale, but again, I was willing to sacrifice that for the color and the effect I wanted. So, and again, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to use these colors because they are a little different from the color scheme of the... Most of the time, y'all notice, I keep to a color scheme pretty tightly. If I start out with a group of colors, I generally try to use those colors throughout a picture or use similar colors within the color family. I usually don't go with a whole crazy different variety of colors, but here, I just wanted to. Like, I started down the fantasy realm of a purple Cheshire cat and a pink clouds, but then past that point I'm like, everything else I just want to stick to basic colors on. Yeah, one thing I did notice was the little circle with the diamonds in it didn't go all the way to the top behind the kitty, and that kind of, I didn't realize that till after I'd done all this. But anyway, no big deal. So here is my Prismacolor pencil. Your Prismacolor white pencil is more of an opaque pencil. It will cover up more than other white pencils will. So you kind of have to trial and error to figure out which white pencil you like in terms of that. Some of them are more transparent than others. Like I said, the Prismacolor one is more opaque, and I knew it would cover up some of the grayscale, and that was fine. So the reason I'm using the pencil is I wanted to keep the back of these little circle things, I wanted to keep it white, but I didn't want to just leave it like it was with the lines of grayscale there. I wanted to go over it with the white opaque pencil to add a little more white to the color and make it, make the white area pop a little more. I figured out this trick when I was doing a Chibi Girls picture, and I wanted to keep a part of the girl's outfit white, and I just didn't want to leave it just plain paper. So I went over it with a white pencil, and I really liked the result because it just, like I said, it really made it pop. The downside to it is I am still pretty messy with my pencil. And so I tried to go back and keep it away from the major lines of the line art, but I still went over it a little bit and I got a little sloppy with it. But at the end of the day, it didn't make that big of a difference, so I tried not to worry too much about it. I do come back in with the eraser, like if I go over, get into the heart areas too much and stuff with it, of course I'll come back and erase those. But when I leave areas white on a grayscale picture, I generally tend to like to come in with a white pencil. Now with other pictures, I probably finished this right off camera, didn't I? Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, in the future, I'd like to experiment a bit more with some of my other white pencils that I have. Because while I like how bright of a white this leaves, I would like to not cover up the grayscale so much. So I'm thinking in the future I might try some different pencils to get maybe more of a transparent white that still gives me that pop of brightness that I want, but doesn't completely like or mostly cover up the grayscale. So I'll probably experiment with that a bit in the future and see how that goes. But yeah, this was the only thing different that I used, and just again, that's something that I enjoy doing, and I would say might be a good tip for those that don't want to just leave, you know, unfinished paper there, but they want to leave an area white. Using some type of colored pencil over it will probably give you what you're looking for. So the coloring police will not come get you if you use a colored pencil on a mostly marker picture. They haven't come for me yet. Now, granted, I live in a pretty rural area and it might be hard to find me, but good gravy, it ain't that hard to find me. Oh my gosh, did I take that this morning? I'm pretty sure I did. Oh well. They had to order my Savella, and so when I was supposed to go get it, when I needed it on Thursday, they weren't getting it until Friday, so I had to go, I think, 2 doses. I had to miss 2 doses. Do not recommend anyone do that, by the way. But unfortunately, I just didn't have a choice. I mean, they didn't have it, right? Like, I mean, so I had to wait. And fortunately, it didn't cause a huge issue for me. So I was glad for that. But no, I was looking and I was like, did I actually add it to my medicine this morning? And I'm pretty sure I did. They did actually get it in yesterday, so I will probably have to go to a mail order for that, which I've had bad experiences with before on that type of medicine. But I'm not gonna lie, being able to get a 90-day prescription of it and not have to go through the rigmarole each month would be pretty darn nice. I am really sorry for coloring off camera, by the way, on this. I just, for the majority of the page, because what I was coloring covered most of the page, I tried to stay zoomed out. But I also know, like, when we get to the detail parts like this, sometimes it's easier to zoom in, and then I just forget, because that's just how I roll. So, that is pretty much all I have in terms of how I do grayscale pictures. I am also in the description going to link to 2 people in particular I know that do Jade Summer Grayscale, and they do it very well with mostly markers, and that is Anne from A Colorful Life and John, the Bibliophile Colorist. And I know John just did a really neat Alice in Wonderland picture from this very book earlier this week, where he used different colors for different, like he cut the picture in half. He had the picture in half and did one side one color and the other the opposing color. And it was like, I saw the finished picture on Instagram and it looks really, really good. He does a great job with grayscale pictures, and then Anne does as well. I'm going to try to find their latest grayscale videos. I might link to those, or I might just link to their channel. I don't know. But if you're looking for more grayscale, and you're specifically Jade Summer Grayscale, and you're wanting to see how other people do it, I would definitely recommend those two right off the top of my head as those that I know for sure do Jade Summer. If anybody knows of anybody else, please feel free to link to it in the comments. I'll add that to the description as well. But if you're, like I said, if you're interested in grayscale and you still want to, did I come back with my Posca or have I already done that? Oh, here we go. So I come back with my Posca to clean. I only had a couple little oopsies, like that one in the clouds and then the eye, the shine in the eyes were really the only places I had a little bit of bleed. So I was very pleased with this. Isn't this picture adorable? Like, I absolutely love it. I don't know if I'm not a huge Alice in Wonderland fan overall. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be like evil or just mischievous. So I just made him more mischievous. Mischievous. I probably mispronounced that. That's a thing. That's a thing. Anyway, I'm like Megamind, if anybody's ever seen that movie. Maybe not as bad as him. I don't call it Shul House. So, anyway, so I'm just putting some finishing touches on here. I'm going back over some of the little areas with that dark purple that I want to be a little darker. And I think we are pretty much done. So here in a minute, you will see the finished picture. Hang on a tick. Haha, I had to go back and actually add it to the end of the video. So here is the finished picture. I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's anything else you would like to see me do with grayscale, I have some ideas, but let me know in the comments. Trudy, hopefully you enjoyed this. This was kind of what you were looking for. Tomorrow, look for my completed pictures for the month. Monday, I'm hoping to dig finally into my castle art review, castle art pencils review, and yeah, we will just hopefully go from there. I do apologize for not doing a live stream today, but overall, I think this was the better choice for me. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Talk to you soon, and bye for now.